Vicky Vale.
Bruce Wayne.
And what do you do for a living?
Lieutenant, is there a 6-foot bat in Gotham City?
Nice outfit.
You look fine.
I didn't ask. I have given a name to my pain.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
Where did you get those wonderful toys?
My life is really complex.
Winged freak terrorizes. Wait till they get a load of me.
Welcome, citizens of Gotham, to The Fire Rises, a Batman podcast focusing on all things The Dark Knight and the DC Universe. If you'd like to connect with the show, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads at tfrbatpod. And if you have thoughts, questions, comments, or even suggestions for future episodes of the show, you can reach us by email. Just shoot those emails to tfrbatpod@gmail.com. My name is Eric Carter, and I am your host, and I am joined, as always, by my partner and co-host, Joe Fornerado. Joe, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Eric. Nice to talk to you on the East Coast for a change. We are finally getting the podcast in the same time zone.
Yeah, I know. It's been quite a while since you and I have talked in the same time zone, and never on this particular podcast. So it's interesting.
Oh, I didn't even think of that, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you had to drive all the way across country to do it.
Yeah, yep. So, and I'm not even technically home yet because we are this is so behind the scenes, but we are in sunny Florida right now. So I'm in Andy DeGenova's stomping grounds. So this is our midway point before we actually move into our house in Virginia, but I wanted to get an episode in because it feels like it's been forever. And we've got a monumental occasion to celebrate. So it felt like a good time.
Yeah, has it been 3 weeks or 4 weeks? I think I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while.
It's been a while. But yeah, so Joe and I are here today, of course, to discuss a huge anniversary. And if you've seen the title of the episode, you know what it is. But we're, of course, talking about a little movie from 1989. But before we do get there, of course, I do have to tell you guys about our partner sponsor, and that is Organic Price Books. So if you're looking for hardcovers of collected editions or trade paperbacks or omnibus or absolutes, the best place to go is Organic Priced Books. They're a small business, and their whole goal is to provide discounted prices on these books because we all know they can be very expensive, but we love to collect them. I've got bookshelves full of them, and that cost can add up. So Organic Price Books is here to help you out with that. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the link in the description of this podcast and use that link to go to Organic Price Books, and then you're going to use our promo codes. The first is TFRBatPod, and that'll save you $2 off of any order. And then the second is TFRBatPod Ship It Together, and that'll save you 5% off of any order of 3 or more books. So Joe, I know, let's see, on the topic today, there's a couple of comics at this point. We have the first Batman 89 that came out a few years ago, and then I think we have, what is it, Echoes, that's coming out currently?
Yeah, but if that release schedule is keeping the pace that it's been, we might not get that till next year,
Yeah,
the
don't know when
hardcover.
that
So
hardcover
don't
is
hold your
coming
breath
out.
on that one, unfortunately. I'm
But
gonna
you,
read that when it all comes out, and
yeah,
I'll definitely pick up the hardcover just to keep up with the consistency of having them back to back. But
yep. It will be there eventually, though. So, but it's not just DC. You can get Marvel, you can get Boom Studios, you can get IDW, Dynamite, Image, anything you're looking for, Organic Price Books has it. So go check them out, save some money on those books, and support this show as you do so. I did tell you guys about a little giveaway that I'm planning on the last episode. Unfortunately, with the move, I haven't had time to iron that out, but that will be coming. So pay attention to our social media as well as this show, and we'll let you guys know how you can enter to win a copy directly from us and Organic Price Books of the absolute Batman Death of the Family. So that will be coming pretty soon. But until then, go check out Organic Price Books. So, Joe, let's talk about what we're here to discuss today. And of course, that is the film from the summer of 1989, and that's Batman. All right, so Batman was released in June of 1989. Specifically, the premiere was June 19th in Westwood, Los Angeles of 1989, and then it went large June 23rd. It was directed by Tim Burton, based on a screenplay by Sam Hamm and Warren Scarron. And of course, it stars Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, Robert Wool, Pat Hingle, Billy D. Williams, Michael Goff, and Jack Palance. So, Joe, we all know the legacy and the lore of this movie. I don't think we need to worry about spoilers with this particular film. What do you think?
I would say not. I think we should all know this one relatively well. We even discussed prior that I didn't know if I would get a chance to rewatch it, and I'm like, I don't think I really need a refresher on this movie. But I mean, I watch this movie all the time.
Yeah, same. I mean, I've been watching it all the time since 1995, and we'll talk about that. But I did just want to dive in because so many podcasts and so many shows. I mean, we just had Icons on Earth, and they did 2 episodes
Mhm.
on this movie and the second one. But so we didn't want to go beat by beat because you guys have all heard every view and every opinion on this movie. So I just really wanted to do a broad celebration of 35 years of Batman from 1989. And one of the things I'll start out with, Joe, is I if I ever forget how old I am or which birthday this is, I can always gauge it by this movie because I age with this movie. So I was born in June of '89. So that's a good thing and an Achilles heel because sometimes I'm like, man, I can't believe this movie's 35 years old. And then I'm like, oh crap, I'm 35
I'm
years
just- That's right. You're still younger than most of us that do this thing, so you're good there.
Yeah, but
And
I
considering
know right
you
around the
saw it when you were
corner.
when in '95 shows that you're a
Yeah.
little young to begin with there.
Yeah. So I know just around the corner, I'm going to be like, crap, this movie's 50 years old. And I'm going to be like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Joe, first thing I want to start with, because I don't know how often you and I have talked about, I mean, we talk about this particular movie a lot, but I don't know how often we've dove into like the minute details of it. So Did you see this in 89 or did you see it later? What was your first experience with this movie?
So I was born in 86. I did not see this in the theater.
Hmm.
My first memory of this movie. Now, the VHS didn't come out until Christmas of 89. So I would assume I saw it the following year, and I was at, and I couldn't even tell you the month. I couldn't tell you what we were doing at this person's house, but we were at a family friend's house, and all the parents were hanging out doing their thing, and a bunch of the older kids were in, you know, one of the kids' bedrooms, and they were all watching Batman. So went in there to see what was going on, and I caught it, and I was like, wow, like what is this? And I still remember vividly, like that is my memory of first seeing Batman. Now, I don't remember what scene I was watching for the most part. I think it was the Joker getting dropped into the acid and then, his hand sticking up. Like that's what is in my head. But you know how memories can kind of play tricks on you. I mean, I was
Sure.
only 3 years old. I can't tell you for sure that was it. But I just remember coming away from that thinking, oh wow, I need to watch this whole movie. And
Mm.
from what I remember, I would assume my parents let me buy the VHS and watch it. And I was 3, 4 years old, whatever I was. I mean, maybe it was a year or two later. I honestly don't remember. I know it was before Batman Returns.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember watching the movie over and over again since that moment. And it was like, you hear all the taboo about, oh, it was dark and scary and this and that. That never occurred to me, never occurred to my parents. I mean,
It
it
was
was
just
not an issue.
it was
Yeah,
just Batman.
it was Batman. And I don't know if they just didn't care or never took the time to even watch it. I mean, I know my dad wasn't keeping up with like, daytime TV where the old, the people were talking about it and stuff. And I don't think my mom really cared. They were pretty
Mm.
lenient with stuff. I mean, it was Batman. I was young. So I think most of the stuff that was probably a little too much maybe went over my head, but I've watched it ever since and I loved it. I remember Batman Returns throwing me off a little bit, but nobody told me I couldn't watch it. I just thought it was weird because I was young. But this one, it's funny because I like how I have a 6 year old daughter, and if I would think twice about having this on in the background while she was in the room, but
Sure.
it was a different time in 1989, I guess, in my family. Nobody cared. And it might be different because I was a boy and that stuff didn't bother me as much as like it might bother my daughter. But man, yeah, this movie has been there since I was 3 years old. And I don't remember after that ever, losing interest or thinking it was bad or anything. Like this movie's just been there since I first saw it.
Nice. Well, yeah, I mean, I've depending on who you ask, it might be unfortunately, I can never talk about my first experience with this movie without talking about Batman Forever.
Mhm.
Because in the summer of 1995, I got my first exposure to Batman with Batman Forever on the big screen. So Val Kilmer, for all intents and purposes, he was my Batman. He's the first one I ever knew and got me introduced to the character. So Christmas of 1989 is the first time that or excuse me, Christmas
95.
of
Yeah.
1995 is the first time that I saw this movie because one of my big monumental gifts for Christmas of 95, I remember it specifically. I got, those cardboard clothing boxes that you
Yeah.
get for gifts and they're all
Yeah.
wrapped. I remember getting that and thinking immediately, this is clothes.
Oh, they did the trickaroo on you, huh?
Yeah, so I opened this clothing box and
Yeah.
here's three VHSs lined up in the box in paper. And it's Batman Returns and Batman Forever. So I had
Mhm.
all three that were currently out at that time. And I had never seen Batman 89 and Batman Returns. So that's how I spent my Christmas for the rest of the day. After we were done with family lunch and all that stuff,
Yeah.
I dove into Batman. So Christmas of 1995 is the first time I saw this movie. And it's so weird hearing all my friends and thinking back on it now because all my friends that are in this space always talk about Michael Keaton being the definitive Batman. And then it was, well, now, and I think I've even heard Andy say it, there was the headline, Kilmer's in, but Keaton's out.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, well, who's this guy? Because I knew Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer
Mm,
was my Batman. Um, but I just remember even from the beginning, it was like Forever, then this one, then Returns when I was a kid.
yeah.
Because Returns just threw me off a little bit because I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was weird. Um, but I had that love for Batman Forever, but I really, really liked this one, even as a kid. And I remember just being so fascinated by the Joker. Even, as a 5-year-old kid, Jack Nicholson just captivated me. So yeah, this one's been there since, like you said, I mean, since my childhood. And it's one that I don't think I'll ever get tired of. And yes, this one over the years, it's definitely surpassed Batman Forever. So before anybody sends hate mail, yes, I adore this movie.
Well, I mean, in your defense, even I was 9 when Batman Forever came out. I think I was the prime age for that movie.
Oh yeah, Wheelhouse.
And I I loved Batman 89 for years. But Batman Forever, like as a 9-year-old, that was the best movie ever. So I get it. Now I caved to my senses since, and I truly, love this movie way more than I would Batman Forever at this point. I was the same way with Batman Returns, though. Batman Returns has slowly become, one of my top Batman movies over the years. Just as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate it. But this one was always, I don't think this one has ever like changed over the years, where like my love for Batman Forever obviously has dwindled. My love for Batman Returns has gone up, where I didn't care for it when I was a kid because it was too weird and I didn't get it as a, 5-year-old. Where this one, I've never changed my view on this movie ever. I don't know if I could say I even love it more than I did when I was a kid because I always loved this movie. Which is weird.
Yeah.
Like it's just stayed consistent throughout my life.
And there's some of those movies, and part of this for me, honestly, I think it's the cover, the poster for the
Hmm.
movie, because I remember just being when I opened that box Christmas morning, enthralled by just that emblem
Hmm.
on the front of that VHS cover. And there's certain movies I think, like you said, I mean, that just stay consistent throughout your life. When I think of like, you know, Jaws or Jurassic Park.
Hmm.
This one's right up there with them. It's consistently an icon and a classic.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know that there's anything specifically about the movie that you and I can say that hasn't been said 1,000 times. At least so far as the story itself. I mean, we can heap praise on Jack Nicholson because of course he's fantastic in this movie. I was just so I didn't I was watching some clips of it today and just thinking about like how good he is when the bullet ricochets off of Batman's gauntlet
Hmm.
and just how painful he makes that look and the screaming and things like that. I mean, only Jack Nicholson could pull off a performance like that. And when he's Joker, I mean, I hear people say all the time that we've never had a quote unquote comics accurate Joker. Maybe in build and size, but man, Jack's pretty spot on for a
I
comics accurate Joker.
I completely agree. I've never really understand like I've never needed the tall, lanky, I guess non-physical threat Joker before. Like I don't need that. I think Jack Nicholson was the closest to the comics that we could have gotten at this time. And really to this day, like he's obviously the most comics accurate in looks and portrayal. Like I mean, just the color of the costume, the design, all that stuff goes hand in hand to me. I love his look as the Joker in this. I didn't care that he wasn't, like paper thin. Like it didn't even occur to me when I was a kid, and it really doesn't bother me now at all.
No, I mean that smile is
Mhm.
perfect. The and there's so much comics precedence in this movie when it comes to the Joker. I mean, you have the acid bath, you have him taking over the televisions in Gotham to announce his schemes and
Mhm.
plans, and even the Smilex. We have the chemicals, we have Joker gas. I mean,
It's still the only Batman movie we've gotten where we got Joker gas, right?
yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I always thought when we saw that, was it in the trailer when he's in the Dark Knight when he pulls that pin out of the
Oh
grenade and you
yeah.
see the smoke come out? I always thought that it was going to be that, but no, we didn't even get it there. So yeah, I mean, for me, this is I don't know because everybody seems to want to do their take on the Joker now. I don't know that we'll ever get this close to a comics accurate Joker unless James Gunn decides to swing for the fences.
Well, and I think that might be the point is that the reason everyone is always trying to do their take is because maybe in everyone else's eyes, this is the comics Joker. So they don't want to try to just do another version of this Joker. They're trying to
Yeah.
do something different. And it's kind of odd, in live action Jokers, it seems like we've gotten further and further away from this as we've gone,
Hmm.
in different ways or another between like I know Leto was kind of in between, Ledger and Phoenix. But yeah, we'll see what comes with and obviously I don't want to forget Matt Reeves's version that we saw in the deleted scene and whatever we got in the movie. They're very drastically different depictions. And yeah, I would love to see something closer to this going further because I think, like you said, we've seen the takes, quote unquote. I want just the Joker now. And I think this, I don't, I hate to say I don't, it's not that I don't think they can top this. I want to see this topped. I think we all, when we look to see new movies, we want to see the movie top the prior movie because that just means we're getting an awesome movie. Doesn't mean we don't
Hmm.
like the one we had first. It was just imagine getting a comics accurate Joker that beats Jack Nicholson's version. That'd be amazing because we obviously think Jack Nicholson's version is already top notch. If we're getting something better than that, who could complain about that?
Yeah, yeah, I agree completely. But we also, I mean, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Michael Keaton for a minute because I mean, what a year last year. For us as fans at least. I mean, maybe not box office wise, but to get Michael Keaton back in the Cape and Cowl in that it was so exciting. And it for me it paid off absolutely. But just to see him back. But in this movie, I mean, he has such an interesting way of playing Batman and Bruce Wayne. Because I mean, just looking at all the different versions of Bruce we've had over the years through the different movies, it's so interesting to watch him play this and almost as if he's lost as Bruce Wayne. Like he has no idea what to do with himself, but he
Mhm.
knows exactly what to do when he's in the suit. It's just so fascinating.
It also, I wonder if it's a movie that like could you do this depiction of Bruce Wayne as it is today, where like people don't even realize who he is when they're at the party? Like it seems like such a moment in time that like you could pull that off. And
Hmm.
the way this movie is with just, his not only just his depiction, because I think I love his version of Bruce Wayne. It is so different, but it's still faithful to what we know of the character with that psychosis angle. Like, there's got to be something wrong with him to be doing this. I like the torment in Keaton's performance, but just stupid stuff. And I don't want to go on a tangent too much, but like today, people would be losing their minds if Joker killed Batman's parents. But in 1989, that made sense from a filmmaking standpoint, and people went with it for
Hmm.
whatever reason. So it does just go to show like maybe sometimes movies come out at the right time. And I was watching the Legends of the Dark Knight documentary. Legends of the Dark Knight. What's the or Shadow of the Bat? What's the
Sh-
Shadow of
Shadow
the
of the
Bat, right?
Bat. Yeah.
I was watching a little bit of that before we started recording, and not Knox. Yeah, what what's Knox's the actor that plays Knox?
Robert
Um,
Wool.
Robert Wool said he was quoting Sir George Martin, the producer of the Beatles, and saying that the Beatles were of their time, and it basically Batman was of its time. It came out at the perfect time to capture what the world wanted at that moment. And it's so true how the movie is unbelievable, but I think the movie went to that next level because of when it came out and how it was just the right time for this perfect movie. And you got the young filmmaker who had the guts to do what he wanted to do for this movie. And then yeah, to cast Keaton, to bring it back to Keaton, the the way that people were angry that he was cast. And this is prior to the internet, prior to any easy ways to complain. They found ways to complain about Michael Keaton being casted,
Hmm.
which is pretty amazing that back in the day, like they went through all these channels to complain about his casting, and he's amazing. On paper, it probably shouldn't work, but Burton knew what he was doing when casting him, and he's most people's favorite Batman still to this day. I mean, I can't say most, but he's a lot of people, especially the ones that grew up with this movie where this was their first Batman. It's hard for people to look past him still. And I mean, I don't know if I'd go as far as to say he's my favorite Batman, but he is Batman to me. Like
Hmm.
there's no debating that. I mean, this is the first role I ever saw Michael Keaton in. I mean, I was, 4 years old. I wasn't seeing a lot of movies at that point. And he will always be Batman to me. And like you said with the Flash last year, like that was awesome to get him back. Box office be damned, we got that movie, and I want to see more of him as Batman. And let's not go on the Batgirl tangent, but the fact that we got more of him and we can't even see it is heartbreaking.
It is.
Um, but I'm glad we got what we got still. And yeah, it's so cool that he's embraced this role so much over the years, which is just so much fun.
Which I'm glad you said that because I feel like for many years before kind of Michael Keaton's resurgence, I feel like he may have honestly got to a point where he resented this role a little bit.
It even kind of he kind of hinted at that during the Shadow of the Back documentary a little bit, where he kind of got it
Hmm.
almost seemed like he was getting annoyed where people were like come up to him and say, hey Batman," and he kind of was like, "Oh, like you can't come up with something better than that." And I don't know if it was just his tongue in cheek like way of trying to be humorous with it, but it did kind of seem like yeah, like he wanted more out of his career, and I can't blame him, but
Right.
I do love that over the years he has kind of, you're right, gone back on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he fully embraces it now. I mean, we've all seen the clip of the commencement speech
Hmm.
he did, where he tells the graduating crowd, I can't
Yeah.
remember it verbatim, but he ends it with "I'm Batman."
Didn't
He's
he even say I'm Batman while he was plugging Spider-Man? I want to say like even while he was
he may have, yeah.
I want to say when he was doing like the talk show beats for Spider-Man Homecoming, he was even saying I'm Batman in those interviews, which is really cool.
And then he even, I mean, as recently as a couple of months ago at the Academy Awards, he
Oh,
had
that's right.
he had the little skit with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yep.
and they didn't announce him as Michael Keaton. He was Batman.
Yeah.
So it's so fun to see him really embrace it because I mean, make no mistake about it. Michael Keaton would not be the iconic actor that he is today from Mr. Mom. It is because of Batman. So um yeah, but there's so much to love about this movie. But there's a little bit with everything. I mean, nothing's perfect. There's a little bit that you can nitpick. I mean, of course, we've talked about Joker being the killer of the Waynes, and that's been controversial here and there. But I don't think to the detriment of the story. But people like to take their jabs at Vicky Vale. And we even discussed this as recently as a Valentine's Day episode that we did with Holy Backcast. But I'll tell you, man, I watched it recently, and then I watched clips of it today. Once you get past the one date in love, ready to be married thing, which is that's such a beaten dead horse at this point. Kim Basinger does a pretty good job in this movie.
Well, that has nothing to do with her as an actress.
No,
That's
that's the
kind of
story.
it's a Hollywood story. That's
Yeah.
I mean, I maybe it's jarring for us as comic book fans, but I don't think at the time anyone cared. I think because we watch these movies so much that we become obsessed with trying to nitpick these things too much,
Hmm.
and it becomes like a just an easy dismissal of certain things, which I think is it can be fun as long as you're doing it tongue in cheek and not doing it to totally throw out the whole movie because of one little nitpick, which
Hmm.
unfortunately that does happen. But like for us, even when we're picking on it for that, we understand it's part of, how Hollywood scripts were back then. I mean, look at any Disney movie ever. Disney princesses get married by the end of the movie. They've just met, they've even started making fun of themselves in certain movies, recently. It's just kind of been a thing forever.
Yeah.
And I don't I mean, she's great in the movie. I have no issues with her as an actress in the movie. And, the fact that she wasn't even originally cast and the whole thing with what's her name? The girl from Blade Runner. I can't remember her name now. I'm drawing a blank.
Oh,
And we just seen a whole bunch of her on Icons on Earth.
oh gosh. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's bad. That's bad that we can't remember the name. But anyway, but yeah, she's just great in the role. I love her as Vicky Vale. I think it's always jarring that, there's not the continuity of her coming back at all in Batman Returns. Obviously, you get Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, and they didn't want the whole love triangle thing.
Sean Young.
Okay, thank you. Um, but yeah, I mean, this movie just on its own, she's great in it. She's not an annoying damsel in distress like you can get a lot of in some of these movies. To
Mhm.
me, she plays the part like she's supposed to. Yeah, is she, used for Batman to save her and to have some type of dilemma? Of course. That kind of was how it was though. If it's not annoying me on screen and it's not taking away from the action and from the Batman stuff, I have no issues with it.
Yeah, I don't either. And honestly, I mean, one of the biggest complaints I hear about Vicky Vale in this movie is the constant screaming.
But
And I told you
she screams
guys
well.
she does
She
scream well. She does. And I told you guys I didn't realize that was a thing until people told me it was a thing.
exactly.
So, yeah. But I mean, there is a few things I lament from this film. I will always lament the fact that and I know it was a thing of its era. But it's one thing that I complain about when it happens once in a while today. Um, Joker dying at the end was always something that gave me a little bit of pause because I don't like to see our iconic villains killed at the end of the movie because that automatically cancels them out for anything else in the future. At
That
least
always happened back in the day,
it
especially in comic
did,
book
yeah.
movies. Yeah, that was always the case.
Yeah, and then I think the other piece um was just the missed opportunity with Two-Face. And that's not the fault of this film
Yeah,
because
that's
they were
not this
setting it
movie's
up for the
fault.
future. But
Yeah.
it is always what could have been because Billy
Hmm.
D. Williams, I mean, he was right there, man. So that and I think it's because I like him so much
Hmm.
as Harvey Dent in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, I cannot wait until I get to the line at the ball or at the charity event at Wayne Manor. When he's talking to Knox and he
With the
goes,
cigar.
yeah,
Yep.
ghosts and goblins.
Yep.
I just love the way he delivers that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So I did want to ask you, Joe, because we're not going to go through this story because everybody knows it. But I do want to talk about, are there any like standout favorite parts of Batman that you really want to shed light on?
Favorite parts?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone goes to the Batmobile stuff. I do love the Batmobile stuff. Um, to try to get away from like I mean, it's hard to not pick like the easy answers.
Sure.
Um, as a kid and even now, I have such nostalgia for just the look of the suit. Something about the suit and just the simplicity of it, the black suit with the yellow oval and the yellow belt, I just find it to be so perfect.
Hmm.
And anytime I see that on screen is just comforting for whatever reason. That's the nostalgia for me, is the design of these films just take me back to being a kid. And this one in particular. Um, but I have a lot of nostalgia other than the Batmobile. I do have a lot of love for the Batwing. I think everything with the Batwing is really cool. Obviously, the iconic, you could say cheesy part of, the Batwing going in front of the moon.
Hmm.
But everything with the Batwing at the end with the parade is really fun to me. The action beat of it crashing and, the Joker shooting it with that insane gun. It's just there's a lot of fun there. And it's weird because the criticism of this movie when we were kids was that it was so dark and, scary for kids. There's a lot of fun in this movie too, and maybe it's dark fun, but as a kid, I just thought it was a blast, and I still think it's a blast. So to me, it's hard for me to pick one particular scene, but just naming a few of those, and I mean, there's not a lot of great, fight scenes or anything like that, but it's just the iconography of that suit and the gadgets and the Batmobile, the Batwing, all that stuff to me goes hand in hand with loving of this movie. It's hard for me to just pick one particular scene.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the suit, and that does lead me to one of my absolute favorite parts of this film, and that's the suit up moment that we get.
Hmm.
I mean, when he's getting ready for the final showdown, and we get the suit up,
When you get the
and
I have to go to work.
yeah, and
Hmm.
as that music is just building, I mean, you're seeing Batman suit up, and then that final look up at the camera
Oh, that's a great
and the
moment.
lighting.
Good
Oh
pick.
gosh, it's
Yeah.
so good. I just love watching that moment because it's a lot quicker than your normal. Now that we see these big elaborate suit ups, and I think Holy Batcast recently talked about that in their episode about the movie moments. But
Hmm.
just I think it's the way that Keaton just looks at the camera in that moment that makes it so great. Um, and then, and it's a moment that I don't hear talked about very much, but it's always been a real standout to me is after we get after the Joker takes over the news broadcast and he's talking about the Joker products and the brand X and all that.
Hmm.
We see Bruce Wayne sitting in Wayne Manor. And that's when he had previously asked Alfred to get him all the police information on Jack
Yeah.
Napier. And you see him looking through the police files and he's putting things together. And he says, chemistry, chemistry. Alfred, let's go shopping.
Yeah.
And it's such a small moment, but people have screamed for years. Well, Batman doesn't do detective work in these
Yeah.
Batman movies. It's subtle, yes, but it's telling you right there what Batman's doing. I mean, he's doing detective work. No, he doesn't have a magnifying glass and he's not checking for fingerprints.
Or test tubes. I feel like they expect not Batman 66 with the test tubes and measuring and yeah,
Yeah, but his detective brain is going in
yeah.
that moment. And I love that. They don't need to show you Alfred and Bruce buying cologne and shampoo and checking all the ingredients. You know what he's doing. And that's such a subtle but great moment to me. And I've always loved that. And I don't feel like it gets enough attention.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to go back to your suit up moment, I've always felt that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the only one that said this. I know the Batman Returns cowl fits better, and the part where you're talking about where he's lifting his head up, and you get that shot, and you could see the cowl doesn't fit perfectly. It's a little, maybe it's not as form fitting as the Returns cowl.
Hmm.
But I think that makes that scene actually look scarier because it looks a little not disjointed might be the wrong word, but it's not as clean cut as the Returns cowl. So for whatever reason, I feel like that shot actually looks scarier to me because of the way the cowl fits his face.
Well, more of his face is in shadow because of it.
Yes. Hmm.
So yeah, I completely agree. But and I am someone who does prefer the suit and cowl in Returns.
Yeah.
But I completely agree with you. I mean, it that suit makes that look in that
Hmm.
moment.
Yeah. And it's a good way of Burton and the cinematographer shooting that to make it work.
Absolutely. Um, but from there, let's get into, since we've talked about moments and we've talked about the actors, let's talk about some of the legacy of this movie. Because there's, I mean, it's 35 years old, it's iconic, but I mean, to this day, when you hear Danny Elfman's Batman March, yeah, I mean, is there many more iconic pieces of music than that? Um, I don't know many people that you could play that music and they wouldn't automatically go, well, that's Batman. Um, it's, I mean, it was the theme for this movie and for Returns and for Batman the Animated Series, and it's popped up over and over and over again. They even worked it into the theatrical cut of Justice League in a tiny, tiny way, but it's there.
Oh yeah.
Um, but it just, man, I can't hear that music and not smile. Um, so I don't know. Is there a theme that you? This is a hard question, and I hope your answer is not yes, because you may be shunned, Joe. But is there a theme that you prefer over this one
A
for
Batman
Batman?
theme?
Yeah.
No. No, there's not. I thought you were gonna say, is there a theme out there like for superheroes better than this? And I was going, "Oh." But I no. This is like you said, the legacy of the film, the legacy of the theme by Danny Elfman. I mean, like it carries over to Batman the Animated Series in its own way. Like you said, people didn't even want to let it go. You know, a lot of people loved it showing up in the theatrical cut of Justice League. Um, I'm kind of give or take on that. Like I can understand like seeing hints of it would be fun. Um, I'm not against moving on though and getting new stuff also. But
Hmm.
yeah, there's no denying the impact that theme has had. And it's perfect. And it perfectly fits these movies. Just on the recent Holy Badcast, there was talk about the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever and how, you know, in the original teaser for Batman Forever, which I had no recollection of this at all, they had the Elfman music in the
Hmm.
original teaser for Batman Forever. And man, I'm one that does not mind the music for Forever and Batman and Robin. I think it fits those movies well. But man, what a different movie Forever would have been if they continued with Elfman's themes. Um,
I
because
just
it
can't
does
imagine it.
it would be completely different. It's a completely different movie. I mean, we've seen how different scores can totally affect the way a movie is perceived and just how it resonates. But yeah, you're dead on when you say this is probably the most. I mean, it's definitely up there in the top five superhero themes in general, in my opinion. I mean, honestly, I might have it at number two, maybe. Iconic themes behind Superman 78 for superheroes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I put this on par or exceeding that score, but that's just me, and it's probably my preference for Batman.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like and just to be, not to go on a whole thing here, just trying to be impartial, I feel the general audience of people that might not be into superheroes, I feel like that one is more recognizable by like a little bit than this,
maybe,
possibly.
yeah, possibly.
But the fact that it's even in the conversation, considering it came out 11 years later and that movie is still held up in such high regard, goes to show you how important the theme was for this and how great it was and how everlasting. So yeah, there's nothing taking away from Elfman for it to be the number two, maybe. I mean, I love the rest of the Batman themes. I don't think there's a Batman theme that I don't like. There are ones that I like less, obviously.
Hmm.
But in every movie, we've gotten such great, composers doing their own version. I feel like this is the one that works the best in the movie and on its own as just a musical part, where the other films they work for the movies, they might not be great, iconic themes per se, where this one just does everything.
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. Um, and while we're talking about the legacy, I mean, let's talk about, because we talked about the poster earlier. Let's just talk about the logo, because how telling is it that 35 years later, that the specific shape of the logo that was on that poster is now, I mean, slightly a variation of it, but that is the official, Warner Brothers DC Comics logo for Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, you see that logo, and I mean, the only thing that's different is the color, but that is the official Batman logo, and it's lasted for so many years now. And I think that's also because I mean, Batman the Animated Series adopted that shape and style for the logo as well.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, it's telling. This is where it started with that. And yes, we had variations similar to it in the comics, but not that exact shape and style.
Hmm.
And now I mean, that is the logo for Batman. Um, Not only that, but I mean, how many times have we seen the Anton First Batmobile, or whatever you want to call it, this version of the Batmobile? How many times have we seen that in the background in Batman comics?
Oh,
Or
artists love throwing that in there at any chance they can get.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, and I know you absolutely love it when I bring up Batman White Knight. But how much did Sean Murphy just go nuts with this Batmobile
Yeah.
in his stories?
Oh, hell, I love driving around with it in Arkham Knight when you had the little, the
Yeah.
packs, whatever the movie packs, which were so much fun in that game. I love driving around with this Batmobile in that, and on top of that, like the Batwing. I mean, this was this the first time we ever got the Batwing that looked like a Bat logo? Like, was
I
that?
think so.
I mean, talk about just comic book goodness. Like, it seems so obvious, but he didn't have to do that. Like it just seemed
No.
it's perfect. And yeah, the that kind of stuff has never been matched to this day, where everyone's trying to do their own variations of that with the Batwing still, because it's like, how do you do a perfect Bat logo and not copy this exactly? Um, what you were saying with the logo, like the most iconic poster possibly of all time, not even just comic book movies. This could very well be the most iconic movie poster of all time. It was everywhere. It is the simplicity of it, the perfection of just that logo. Everybody knew what it meant. Everybody knew what it was. It. I mean, I remember asking you and Andy and the guys, like, was there a secondary poster for this movie? And I don't think there was, right? Like, this was it. Like, I mean, we get so many posters now for every movie. They didn't need any more for this one.
No, and it's to the point where, like, when when I load up my digital copy of this movie, I get disappointed when I see the
Oh, the stupid
version.
artwork that's on there now, right?
Yeah,
I know.
just give me the iconic poster. That's it. Give me that. I don't want to see this blue and purple thing.
I
Uh,
guess they're always trying to sell different versions of it and stuff. But yeah, like even the steelbooks, like we got the 4K steelbooks last year, and they got these weird art on them. And I still have like luckily they did make a regular standard steelbook of just the logo, and I have that one, and that's the one I use the most because I love that, just the simplicity of it. It's a
does it
no-brainer to me.
does it have the edges cut off on the sides?
That's a good question. I would have to go back and look. I don't think it does.
Oh, that you're gonna have to send me a picture later because I want to know.
I don't think it does.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's we can't say any more about how iconic it is. But one thing I was really excited to talk about when we were talking about doing this episode and this movie in particular, as Joker pointed out, I mean, Batman's got some wonderful toys.
All right, so the logo is cut off.
It is cut off. Okay,
Yes.
awesome. You killed my segue there, Joe.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, as Joker says, Batman's got some wonderful toys. So I wanted to talk about like just all of the merchandise that has spawned out of this movie. And we have no time to talk about all of it. But I mean, you're talking action figures, you're talking t-shirts. I'm sure in 89 they had lunch boxes and God knows what else. But Joe, I'm putting you on the spot here. Do you have any particular Batman 89 merch that you would consider your favorites? And whether
Oh
that be
yeah.
in your collection right now or things you've had in the past, what do you think?
So that unfortunately is where our age hurts us for discussing this kind of stuff. But I will say for me, because I fell more into the later Kenner toys with Batman Returns.
Hmm.
But the Toy Biz stuff from 89, I had just Batman and Joker from the original line.
Mm,
Um, Batman with the drawstring belt, and I had
I've seen
Joker
this.
that squirted the water.
Okay.
Um, I remember a friend of mine had the Batwing. I by that point had like the Batman Forever Batwing, I think,
Okay, that
already.
makes sense.
Or the animated series one. But he had the original one from Batman 89. I remember him having that. I had the Kenner Batmobile. I never had the original Toy Biz Batmobile. Um, I just watched a really fun YouTube video of some guy that collects a ton of, or has collected a ton um, of 1989 Batman stuff. I
You know,
don't even know who this guy is, but I want to plug it because if anyone's listening and wants to check it out, just type in 1989 Batman collection. It's by someone named JustinScarred.
you sent it to me. I watched like a few seconds of it. I haven't had a
It's a
chance to watch it completely.
blast. And
I'm a,
you know me, I hate YouTube videos. Like I get annoyed so easily, but it's just this guy showing us his collection. And I'm not a YouTube guy. I mean, this guy could be a very popular YouTube video. I have no idea who he is. I apologize. But it was so much fun to watch him. It's an hour of him just going through all these like crazy collector's items. Um, and like I said, all I remember is I had the Batman 89 or the Batman with the drawstring and the Joker, and I just remember them being beat to crap. Like I play with them things nonstop. I used to tie them up and play with them. I had the Kenner Batcave eventually, and I used to play with them with that.
Mhm.
Um, so as far as like 89, that's all I can really say about my favorite toys. Most of my favorite Batman figures were actually from Returns.
Gotcha. Well, I'm gonna link that video that you sent me. I'll link that in the podcast
Okay.
description just so people can see it because
Yeah, he goes through everything. He goes through like I honestly almost went on eBay and ordered a 1989 holiday catalog because it's got Batman on the cover and it was all Batman stuff from the Warner Brothers catalog. It was so cool. Some of the Batman cereal boxes, like all sorts of stuff. I mean, 89, that's the one thing like people talk about, Batmania, and I was too young to really remember, living through it, but when you see some of these videos and see all the memorabilia, like I I wish that we had that kind of stuff today.
Mhm.
That's where the nostalgia really hits me is I remember it from Returns and forever. So I can't even imagine or fathom, honestly, it being bigger than that. And
Yeah,
clearly 89 was bigger than both of those. So that's really cool to try to relive that through some YouTube videos and some like old clips and stuff. It's fun.
that's awesome. Now, what about current pieces in your collection?
So sadly, current pieces, I mean, 89 is the most sought after stuff, so I miss out on a lot of 89 stuff. I mean, I love the I think my wife got me the Batman versus the Joker Funko Pop where Joker's hanging off the ledge. It was
Mm,
like an anniversary. I want to say that was Batman's 80th anniversary. Might have been the 75th anniversary where they did the line with the black boxes and the gold trim and everything. That was pretty cool. Again, unfortunately, I have, the Hot Toys Batman Returns figure. I missed out on the 89 one. Um, I never got the 89, or I never got the Joker from Hot Toys. I missed out on that, unfortunately,
You know,
which is a shame.
and they're releasing a 2.0 of the 1989 Hot Toys Batman.
Yes.
And I hem-hauled around on that. Now I'm kicking myself because I was like this
And
close
it's
to.
probably already sold out.
I waited and waited and
Yep.
waited too long, and now it's waitlisted. So
And that's what happens. So and again, going back to like, I prefer the return suit. And I think what happened was when I had a choice of getting one or the other, if I want a Keaton figure, I like the look of the return suit for whatever. Even when I was a kid, I had much more love for that suit. Even not liking that movie as a kid, I preferred the look of that movie.
mhm.
Just the snow. I remember reading that comic book all the time. The adaptation. So as I do not have a lot of 89, even current memorabilia. I have tons of Batmobiles. I have the Hot Wheels Elite 89 Batmobile. I have like the 150th ones.
Mhm.
Just looking around. Believe it or not, I'm looking around behind me. I have a cassette tape of the I think it's the Prince soundtrack. Or the
Mm.
Prince album. I bought it at like a yard sale for $1 a couple years ago. I had no reason to have it, no reason to play it anywhere, but it was $1. I'm like, how could I not buy this right now? Just to have the logo. It's just the logo, just the cassette logo, and the Batman logo right on the front of the cassette. It's perfect. It looks like a little VHS tape, like just sitting there on my shelf now. So it's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, so I mean, for me, I mean, things that I just remember growing up, of course, the VHS. I mean,
hmm
and I still have my copy of that. It's very beat up. I'd love to. I'm gonna have to eBay that at some point and get a nice pristine copy because you can get them pretty readily
I
available.
still don't have one. I mean, I already had one when I
Really?
was a kid. I've got rid of it, and I never went to get another version of it.
Nah, wow. Yeah, I still have mine, but man, it looks rough. I mean, the cardboard is it's barely hanging on. Um, but you know, in '95, those toys from Toy Biz, I mean, they were not readily available.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I never had any of that stuff. So most of the collecting I've done has been in my older years, not really as a kid. But there's a few pieces that, man, I just love. One is very recent, the McFarlane Batmobile that they put out,
Oh yeah.
the Gold Label series that they put
Mhm.
out last year. I've even
Now, was that for the Flash or was that for Batman 89?
So they did one for the Flash, which got a lot of complaints
hmm
because it had a like a gray canopy on the
Okay.
black
Just
car.
to make it different.
It looked
Yeah.
funky. So then they came out with the actual one from Batman 1989, which is more of a matte finish,
Yeah.
and it came with the Batman figure.
hmm
So that's the one I got. I got the one from 89. And since then, because this thing looks so cool, but it was just slightly off. So there was another company called Ramen Toys that made these modifications for it. So I bought that
Yeah.
and put it on my Batmobile, and now it looks perfect. So thrilled with that. It's huge though. Takes up a lot of space. Um,
Well,
but
before I forget, I have to apologize to you. So one of my recent 1989 items, you sent me the Funko of the Joker because you got a Chase variant or something after the fact. And you're like, "Well,
yes,
I don't need two versions of this, so you sent me one." So I have that and I have the original or the one that came out a couple years ago of Batman. So I do have
yeah,
two current, other than the anniversary one my wife gave me. I do have a Joker and I do have a Batman 89. Just
nice.
regular Batman. So yeah,
I did send you
thank you
that.
for sending that to me. So I forgot about that one. I'm looking at it right now. I just didn't even think about it.
Well, this is what I do, Joe. I share the love when I don't need it in my collection, but I know
Yeah.
somebody else can enjoy it. I did the same thing with the McFarlane Batmobile. I didn't need the figure because I have the Mezco. So I sent the figure to Brendan. So Brendan, there's your shout out. You're welcome.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, and that was my next one, my Mezco 6-inch Batman figure. He goes perfectly with the Batmobile, and man, Mezco packs a ton of detail into a really little figure,
Hmm.
and he looks amazing. I mean, these are like tiny scale Hot Toys. They
Yeah.
look wonderful. So, yeah, I love those two pieces, and of course, just because you're on the show with me, Joe, my vinyl of the '89 soundtrack.
Oh God, yeah. I don't. You just got me thinking, do I have a laser disc of Batman 89? That would be cool, but I don't. I don't think I do. I don't think I
Oh
ever got
man.
a laser disc version of that because that's my weird thing. Like I'm looking at, I have a Ninja Turtles laser disc right next to me as I'm recording, like stupid stuff like that. I make fun of you for vinyl, but I have a laser disc next to me.
There you go.
Whatever.
But yeah, and the thing I think the main point of this is, and us discussing all this merch, it doesn't seem like there's any stopping all the merchandise for this movie
Hmm.
35 years later, because we just saw we're getting a new line of Funko Pops for it,
Yeah.
and there's some great looking pops in that line.
Every time I say I'm not buying any more Funko Pops, it's like
They do
I'm so
this.
sick of they're like freaking rabbits in my basement. Like they're everywhere. And
Yeah,
I really like I'm looking at them like it's just a waste of space at this point. I've because you just can't stop once you start buying them. And I
it's
don't
like
need all these things.
it's like Pringles chips. You just
Ugh.
can't. But yeah, I mean they've got a new line of those coming. They do have, but they just Hot Toys just released a another version of the '89 Batmobile. I think it's a re-release from the one they did several years ago. They've got that. They've got the Keaton 2.0 coming out soon, and that the pre-orders are sold out. But I'm sure you're going to be able to get them on the secondary market.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't think the merchandise is ever going to stop for this movie. It's too iconic.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't get any type of, movie re-release this year, but they did just release the 4Ks a couple years ago. Oh no, so they're re-releasing it, but it's nothing special. It's the same they're releasing the 4K Steelbook this year by itself, I believe.
Mhm.
As opposed to the one that was in the pack. This one comes with a Blu-ray. I don't think the other one did. But so I have I think three different versions of Steelbooks for Batman. And then not to mention the great they had the DVD collection that came out first with the Shadow of the Bat documentaries and all that. And then the Blu-ray version came out, years later. And luckily, I remember when I bought the 4K Steelbooks, someone warned us like don't get rid of those Blu-rays because the special features are not on the steelbooks
Yes.
that I had because they're not on the Blu-rays. So I still have that set. I love that set. Obviously I'm not getting rid of it now, but that set when that came out, like there's so many special features on the original Batman Blu-ray. That's probably why they haven't come out with anything new because they might not have much more to add to it at this point. There is
Well,
so much stuff on there. We've all seen everything. I mean, even Icons on Earth, like, yeah, it has some cool, interesting stuff, but I mean, just the extra stuff on there, is it worth putting a whole new release out there for it? Like, it's tough.
well, let's face it, the stuff that we didn't know that we learned in Icons Unearthed, Warner Brothers is never going to put on special features anyway.
Yeah, that's true. They're not
So,
going to officially release that stuff.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think there's anything else at this point that Warner Brothers can mine. I mean, unless they get Michael Keaton and Tim Burton to come back in and do another
They would have to do
interview.
like a look back. Yeah, a special
Yeah.
look back with the whole cast or something. That's the only thing that they could really do at this point. That would be anything that would be worth us, buy. I mean, we buy multiple versions of it without them adding stuff to it, so we'll buy anything, let's be honest. But yeah, that would be really fun to see them all come back and discuss it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, I know, this is just a general celebration. But Joe, was there anything like in particular that you wanted to absolutely discuss on this episode that we haven't?
Um, no, I mean just the merch and all that stuff was such a big deal. We didn't mention the video game, the pain in the butt video game, I guess was for
Oh God,
Nintendo, which I don't even think I played at the time. I play now with the the
on our
emulators that we
emulator,
got,
yeah.
and it's very frustrating. I don't know how we had the patience we had when we were kids. It probably made us the men we are today by playing these stupid video games as kids, and we learned perseverance, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Have no patience for it now as an adult. So yes, like I mean, there was Batman everything. Uh, the
You
one
know,
thing that I've always been fascinated by, and I've never been able to get um an answer for it or confirmation of whether this is true or not. Nobody seems to discuss it. I don't know if anyone just doesn't care about it. I saw a rumor once that the reason the logo on the Batsuit is different than the logo on the poster is because while they were shooting, they never got clearance, or while they were designing the suit, I should say, they didn't get clearance for the trademark of the logo. So they had to do a different logo for the suit because they couldn't assume they were going to get the trademark for the logo.
hmm.
I have never seen that. I saw it one time on like some stupid Reddit post when I was trying to look up info on it, and I've never seen that discussed anywhere, confirmed anywhere. Um, it could be complete BS. It could have just been the fact that Tim Burton liked the logo on the chest better at the time, and then they used a different logo for the poster, which again, I've always kind of questioned why they would have done that. And then once the poster became so iconic, they had to use that logo for the second film on the suit. It's just always been fascinating. And I don't hate the logo on the suit, but I've always just been fascinated by the fact that it was different. Because why would you have such an iconic poster with that logo and not put that on the suit? So that reasoning made sense to me when I heard it, but I've never seen it confirmed one way or another.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because that's, the logo on the suit has always been crazy fascinating to me because it's got the two little tail prongs off the
Yeah,
side.
like it's just different, and it's almost become like an iconic thing in it of itself because it's a debate. It's a very hot debate between a lot of Bat fans, and I personally do not prefer it. I prefer the return suit because of the logo. Um, and I think the way certain other things work in the return suit better than the 89 suit, but the logo is a big part of that for me. So I've always been curious as to what the reason was, but I've never been able to find anyone of importance to give a reason.
I've always just assumed it's because Tim Burton's a weirdo. And he liked the logo with the extra points. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a great point though. Hopefully, maybe one day we'll find out. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I
Yeah.
do like it on the suit, and it maybe just has grown on me over the years.
Yeah.
But I loved seeing it. I love seeing it show up in comics. I think it was on the suit in the World's Finest
Hmm.
comic recently, so it
Yeah.
may still be. Um, but yeah, good point, Joe. Well, I think was there anything else you
No,
can
no, that's
think
it.
of?
Just something that popped in my head, but no, that's pretty much it. I mean, like you said, there's not much else we can talk about this movie. This was a fun conversation to try to just to discuss you know, the broad terms of why we love this movie and, not even why we love it, just what makes this so special and why we're talking about it 35 years later.
Yeah. And one thing that's awesome, I think, about the anniversaries of this movie is that every time there's kind of a milestone anniversary with 89, it's also falling on a milestone anniversary for Batman as a whole.
Yeah.
Because this is the 35th for 89 and it's the 85th for Batman,
Yeah.
period. So I always think that's pretty cool, and it's a easy makes it very easy to track these anniversaries. But yeah, we really just wanted to get together and record because it's been so long. And Batman, this movie was a wonderful reason to do so and to celebrate 35 years of it. But
And
you
we're a little
guys,
early, but we wanted to make sure we got it out because if for
yeah,
some reason
yeah.
we can't record in a couple weeks, then at least we made sure because we definitely wanted to discuss this, so
Well,
we
yeah,
made sure we
because
got this through.
I'll be back on the road in a couple of weeks. So
Yeah.
so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I challenge you guys. I want to hear like what are some things that maybe you're doing to celebrate Batman 1989, or some favorite parts of the movie, or some of your favorite merch. You guys know I'll post the episode on our social media, so respond to that post. Let me know. Let us know what some fun things about 89 that are personal for you. But Joe, we're not quite ready to wrap up yet. I don't think I told you this, but we do have an email from Stuart, our good buddy Stuart. And so we'll go ahead and get into that before we leave you guys. And Stuart says, "Hey guys, it's Stuart from Guernsey. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed your review of Son of Batman. It's one of my all-time favorite Batman animated movies, so thank you for doing that. Can I ask you how you're going to cover Batman, the Caped Crusader? Will you be doing the series as a whole, as they're dropping all the episode at once, or will you cover an episode each show? I hope you're settling well in your new home, Eric. And Joe, it was great to hear you on Holy Batcast." So that's fun. It was great hearing you, Joe, while we were on our little hiatus over there on Holy Batcast. And Stuart, thank you. I am not quite in our new home yet. We're in Florida visiting family, but we'll be there soon. But thank you for the thoughts. And you're very welcome for covering Son of Batman. That was a lot of fun. But Joe, I I haven't put much thought into this yet. I honestly, did we get an announcement on the Cape Crusader dropping all their episodes at once?
I was not aware of that, if that's the case, because I assumed it was going to be kind of like how they dropped The Boys, where like maybe the first two or three episodes come
Hmm.
out and then it'll be weekly. Have they even said how many episodes it is? I haven't been keeping track of it, to be honest with you. And
I don't
Stuart,
know.
thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed me on Holy Badcast. It was fun to fill in with them, and especially while me and Eric were kind of on a little break ourselves. So it was nice to get to talk over there. Um, but I mean, I would love to cover it kind of like we did Titans. I know nobody cared about how we talked about Titans, but um, even if we just did like little episode, like a little, or maybe even just like we covered Batman the Animated Series, like just after we cover whatever we're covering, just cover the episode at the end. Or if we have nothing to discuss, just do an episode just to get on here and discuss one of the an episode. It depends, I guess, how long the episodes are or how much they're dropping them. If they do drop it all at once, that might throw a wrench into whatever we're planning because that would be hard to do. Like maybe we cover in a gap weeks where we don't have anything we have an anniversary for, whatever, maybe cover like two or three at a time. I don't
Mhm.
know. It's tough.
Well, I was just checking on it while you were talking, Joe, and yes, apparently Variety reported way back on May 9th that the streamer so it's 10 episodes for the season, and they are dropping all of it on the same day.
I don't like that.
And it's coming out August 1st.
Oh, is it really?
Yep.
That came out quick. Okay, I really don't like that though.
Yeah. So with that
And
being said,
this shows our age so badly because like when I before I had kids, that would be like, yes, 10 episodes all in one day. That's amazing. Where now I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to watch 10 episodes. Like I'm gonna be so far behind. And I think I do like the idea of when they drop it weekly because it keeps everyone talking about it. It makes me nervous when they drop it all in one shot because I'm worried they're dumping it.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe because I don't like things like Invincible. Isn't that Amazon Prime Video?
Yes, but
Invincible.
and that's always week to week.
Yeah, yeah. So that's I don't know. But yeah, so an answer to your question, Stuart, didn't even know it was dropping all at once. So I
You
don't
threw
know.
us for a loop there, Stuart. Sorry.
You did. So I don't know how we'll cover it. I wish it was coming out week to week because it would be fun to because we do a bi-weekly show, so it would be fun to do a couple of episodes per episode of our show. And we may still do that. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that, but I'll keep you informed, Stuart. I'll let you know. But as of right now, not sure. But yeah, so you can absolutely tell that we are not a news podcast because we are way behind schedule.
Apparently, we don't even listen to enough news podcasts either.
Apparently not. But thank you so much, Stuart, for the email. I really appreciate it. But I think that's where we're gonna cap it off for the evening. But this has been a lot of fun. Joe, thank you so much for joining me. I know it's been a while, but thank you for sticking in there and not leaving me for Holy Batcast or whatever show. And why don't you let everybody know where they can find you out there on social media?
No, thank you. I'm glad we were able to get this in and I know you got a lot going on and between the kids graduating, different, levels of schooling right now and the summer kicking off, we're busy too. So I'm glad we were able to make it work. And who knows when we'll be able to get the next episode in. Hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon and get back to our normal schedule when everything settles down, if it does. So but yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as JForn11. And you can find me on Facebook as Joe Fornerato, FORNAROTTO.
Fantastic. And as for myself, you can find my personal accounts on Instagram, X, and Threads. And Letterboxd at mecarter89. That's mecarter89. The show can be found on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads at tfrbatpod. Once again, if you have any thoughts or questions, comments, suggestions for the show, you can shoot us emails. That's tfrbatpod@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, the easiest, best, and free way to do that is to leave us a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you listen to us on. If you leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts, we will read those on the show. If you're looking for another way to support us, and we don't ask that you spend a dime on this show, but if you'd like to, that would be greatly appreciated. You can go to redbubble.com, search Shop TFR, all one word, and you'll find our merchandise with our logo created by the very talented Justin Kowalski there. Our theme song was composed by Gaurav Venkateswar, and his music can be found at gbtunes.com. Don't forget to use the link in the description of this show to go to Organic Price Books, use our promo codes, save yourself some money, and support us as you do so. But that's going to do it for this episode of TFR. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, make sure you keep that bat signal lit and pointed skyward. Batman was created by Bill Finger and Bob Kane and is the sole property of Warner Brothers Discovery. The Fire Rises, a Batman podcast, is in no way associated with DC Comics, DC Studios, or Warner Brothers Discovery. The thoughts and opinions of the participants of this show are their own and do not reflect the companies that they work for. Thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.